Okay, this is lesson one using the pen tool by Finlo Kilner. I want to show you how using the pen tool in Photoshop, and don't worry if you've got a different version, they're all pretty similar, can really take drawing on the computer to another level. And I'll start by just showing you something I've already done. So if we click on this file here, I downloaded a small picture of a mini from the internet. That, if it was printed, would probably be about 3 inches by 2 inches, maybe 4 by 3. And obviously no good for anything much, because if I try to make it bigger, it gets pixelated. But if I trace the lines with a path, which I can show you by doing this. So there is the tracing I made of the lines of the mini, and then I can fill in different lines with different colours, and there they are filled in. And I can also stroke the lines themselves, so put a stroke on them. So my final piece ends up looking like this. Let me just zoom in so you can see. So there's my final mini with the lines and the fills and the different colours. Okay, so you can do a lot once you can do the pen tool, but it is a bit confusing at first. So let's start. I want you to go File, New, and choose International Paper A4 210mm by 297mm, resolution 300 pixels per inch. That's print resolution, so 300 pixels per inch is a good place to start. Click OK. Right, I now want you to choose the zoom tool and click maybe 3 times on screen so that it zooms in. We've got a big area of screen there. Now, on the right you can see I've got layers, channels and paths, above which I've got history, above which I've got character. If you haven't got these things showing, they drag around by the way, you can go window, and for example, if you can't find your paths, it's in there, paths, right? So you can pop things up if you've lost them. So first of all, and I've got a white background layer. So first of all, I'm going to click on the pen tool, which is halfway down the tool stack on the left, and I'm going to make sure that the central button of these 3 is selected and the first button of these is selected, which means I can just use the pen tool in a normal way. I've got auto add delete, and I've got, there it is, a representation of that. So I'm just going to click 3 times on screen. I'm going to click and let go. I'm not going to click and drag. That does something different. So click, click, click. Now there's my 3 clicks. Now you can see 3 anchor points and 2 lines connecting them. So if I now roll over the first anchor point, you'll see a little circle appears by the pen nib, and that means I can click and I've completed the shape. So I've now got a closed shape. Okay, so now if I go to the paths palette behind the layers palette there on the right, you'll see Photoshop has made a work path, which is unhelpful because a work path is not saved when you save the document, and obviously you want to be able to close this document and then reopen it tomorrow, and all your hard work making paths like drawing the mini or whatever are maintained. So you need to double click the work path so you get this dialog pops up, and you can click OK as path 1, or you can name it appropriately, and if you've got lots of paths, probably naming it's a good idea. Click OK. So now you can see it's called triangle, and when I save this untitled document, the path will be saved with it because it's not a work path. So you need to remember to do that. Now, there's a path, and that's a vector shape, which means if I want to make that triangle 10 feet wide, I can do it because it's not resolution dependent. It can be larger or smaller. It's just a piece of maths, okay? But I want to put some paint onto my page now. So if I go to layers and I click a new layer, that was that one down there. So I've now got a layer sitting on top of the background layer, and it's empty at the moment. You can see the checkerboard pattern. It means there's nothing on the layer. So I go to the path, I make sure triangle is selected. If I click on the grey below the path, you'll see the path disappears. Selected, not selected. Okay, now down the bottom of the palette here are a bunch of options. The ones I'm interested in at the moment, the first one is fill path with foreground color, and the second one is stroke path with brush. Okay, so it's the fill. I don't want to fill it with black, so let's go over here to the left at the bottom of the tools palette and set a foreground color. If I click up in this top right hand corner, I can click and drag to go right into the corner, and then I can drag these little arrows up and down to choose different colors. Okay, they're all fairly grim, so let's choose a grim purple. Okay, click OK, and there it is. And so now I've got triangle selected. I roll over the there it is, fill path with foreground color button, and click it, and voila, the path is filled with that purple. So if I click off the path and go back to layers, you will see I've now got the background layer, which is white, and the layer above, turn on the eye and turn off the eye, is a triangle on screen. Okay, so I've just put that triangle on layer 1, and that means I can move it around if I want. I don't want to in this circumstance, but I can. Look, oops, no, I don't want to do that. Click on the move tool, and there you go. You see, it just moves around. Control Z to put it back. Right. Okay, I'm going to make a new layer. Click there, and that's layer 2. Go back to my path. Click on the triangle so that I've now got my path showing. And the second button, if you remember, it said stroke path with brush. Now that means we've got to go to the brush tool halfway down the tools palette, a third of the way down the tools palette. Click on the brush tool, and then up here in the dialog above, you've got the brush size. So I want to make the size a bit bigger. Roll over screen to see how big it is. Make sure you haven't got caps lock held down. That'll mess everything up. Gives you an X instead of a little circle there. So let's say I want that size. So that's 29 pixels. Maybe nudge it down a bit. I don't know. There we go. Nudge it down. You can always type into there if you want to. Hardness. I want a hard line. That'll have a hard edge, that line. Okay, so I want 100% hardness, 27 pixels. And to close this dialog, just click in the grey up here, and that closes the dialog. So now, making sure you've got your triangle selected, click on the layers. Just check layer 2. It's not on layer 1. This is a different layer. Go back to the paths, and then roll over that stroke path with brush button, and click there. Oops. And don't click there, Control Z to undo what I've just done, and choose a different color. Remember everything. I'm going to choose a yellow there. Okay, and now roll over the stroke path and click, and you can see the path in the middle of the stroke, so that when I click off on the grey down here, you'll see the path disappears. There you go. So now, if I go back to layers, you can see I've got layer 2 with a stroke on it, layer 1 with a purple triangle, and the background layer is white. So if I click on the move tool now, I can click and pick up the layer 2 outline, and I can move it around independently of the fill. If I click on layer 1, click on layer 1 there, I can move the triangle around independent of the stroke. Okay, so that's what I want you to achieve. Just create a triangle and fill it with colors and put a stroke on it on 2 different layers so that you can move them around. Okay, and in history here I want to put them back where they were, so I can go back to stroke path there, and they are back exactly where they were. And there I have it. I can save my document, Control S, and let's save it as triangle. And now the document is saved. Don't show again. Is saved with the path. So the path, when the document opens, the path will be there. And that's your lot.